Dr. Charles, from the keynote address and from the opening remarks, I know your priority has been financial education, and one of the objectives is providing accurate, relevant, practical examples. How can the culture of financial compliance be deepened within systems, institutions, families, and individuals, given your experience?
Thank you so much. Before we even think of financial compliance, we must first think on the broader context of compliance. Now, compliance is as old as mankind. It is traced back to the period of Adam and Eve. I can see you laughing. What is making you laugh about Adam and Eve? Why is it traced back? Because there is something to do with the forbidden fruit. So the question I pose here is, did Adam and Eve actually comply at that time? For believers, we believe that the cost of non-compliance at that time still follow us up to this day. Do you agree? Do you agree? Correct. And therefore, to think of the culture of compliance, we have to go back to the roots. Now, compliance, in terms of financial compliance, gained root during the period of industrial revolution. This is because there was a shift of money being with the individuals, being handed over to managers to start managing money on their behalf. So issues of standards, of how are you going to manage my money as you invest it in the industry, as you invest it in the company, became serious. So the owner started saying, you are going to use my money to grow it. You are promising me return. What assurance, what framework are you actually having in place that can guarantee that my money is able to come back? Now, if we reflect into that perspective and say that the foundation of compliance is about the basics that are at home, that are in our day-to-day activities, then we begin to understand compliance at a different level. Now, I want to look at compliance from two perspectives. The first perspective is that compliance can be looked at an individual level. And compliance can also be looked at an institutional level. Now, for those people working with big institutions, how many people here are working with organizations that have more than 50 employees? Now,
I can tell you.
Okay, if you are working with organizations that have more than 50 employees, financial compliance becomes much simpler. Why? Because there are systems, there are guidelines guiding, and there are people responsible for financial compliance. Now, when you go to individual and small to medium-sized companies, compliance becomes harder. If I go back to the organization, making a budget and adhering to the budget is like waking up and brushing your teeth in a company. But at individual level, how many of you have budgets and adhering to them? First of all, how many have budgets? Before going to adherence. How many have budgets? Before actually going to adherence to budgets. And therefore, we need to have this shift in mindset. What is basic and ordinary for an institution is actually basic and ordinary for an individual. Can an organization run without that budget and without adhering to it? So then how do you expect to run as an individual, as a small and medium-sized firm without a budget when you are not doing the good practices that are expected of you? That's the first perspective. The second perspective I look at financial compliance is around the internal and external perspective. Now, we tend to think financial compliance is external, but most of it is internal. Actually, most of the things we need to comply with are internally within us. If you are unable to wake up and read a quote every day, how do you expect to improve and comply with any financial procedure? If you cannot wake up and actually have a mechanism to know how much comes in and how much goes out regularly, how do you expect to start thinking about compliance? And therefore, if we shift it from somebody is going to see me to check how I am adhering to things, then we lose it all. Because at an individual level, who is going to check how you are adhering to certain things? For me, that's the foundation